Wesley Rowe, Santa Barbara Permaculture Network. This is our fifth mural, and it's entitled Ecological Design Living Machines. And this is based on the work of John Todd, who is a scientist and an alchemist. He really creates that magic between the in-between knowledge.
So what's going on?
This is his system that he's developed over 50 years, starting in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, where he first started. And this is a series of tanks that are used to clean up toxic water from channels, rivers, wetlands, meat packing plants, sewage treatment plants that are not working.
And this is in effect somewhere?
This is all over the world. This is a lot of
systems.
These systems, and they're designed for each place. There's another series of tanks depending on what he's doing. So because it's biological, it's adaptable. There's not a cookie cutter. You have to kind of see what you've got and adapt. So he's working with some rivers that are so toxic that you really have to get the microbes that can survive in that world, know which ones, mix them up, and then slowly mix up different things, add plants, so you're adding the roots with the microbes. That adds another level of cleansing. And then you have a fish, and the fish is your canary. If the fish dies, you have to go back again. So the big test is if fish lives, it goes on to the more cleansing processes.
What's the last stage?
The last one is something he developed for Chattanooga, because Chattanooga has this, they brought him in, they let him design stuff, but they would never implement them. Because it would draw attention to the tourist industry, that they had like 3 feet of sludge going all the way through the town. Left over for 150 years of industrialization, the worst toxins you could ever imagine, from leather, from dyes, from everything was in the bottom of the river. And so this is a tank that he designed for really dealing with the sludge. And the idea behind the rocks at the bottom is more surface, because you're going to have more biological life to break the sludge up. His idea is you have no waste by the time you finish. So he was able to break down the sludge.
So people can swim in the ocean next?
That, you can swim in that water after that comes out.
So what did he do?
Well, he just proposed this for Chattanooga, but he's done many other communities. They didn't like it because it was drawing attention to their big problem that they didn't want to talk about. The whole river was like that, and the kids were sick with cancer, and it was like a bad problem. But so they chose to just plant trees and clean up the place, which is not bad. Before it was like pretty much a wasteland. So what he does is, the reason we have children at the end is to show that's what you're working for. The future generations, so they can swim. That we clean up the toxic water. And what the mural shows, it's like, how do you show something that shows a river being cleaned up and the tanks beside? And the idea was to have a gradual kind of way with the design, so as the tanks clean up the water, you'll see the river getting better. And that was kind of what behind us. And then the power of all that sunshine, because it's an aerobic system, it needs sunlight. So the sun is what powers all this. And that's the really important thing. The sun is the key element for making these work. And then John here, he's amazing. He's in his mid-80s.
John, the artist?
John Todd. He's the guy that did it. His book is called Healing Earth.
Oh.
There it is.
The only time I see him is on the weekends when I go.
And he's just this magical guy that started early as a scientist and realized that there was an in-between zone of knowledge that you needed, almost like in fairyland, in a way. And he became an alchemist too, as well as a scientist. Very highly respected, taught in universities in Vermont. His design is in Auburn College. So if you go to their environmental department, the whole building, you'll see at the bottom floor is a whole living system that John designed for it. Yeah. And then if you go to Taos, there is a 5-star hotel. You walk in, there's a tropical forest. It cleans up all their waste. So when the only thing that goes out is clean water, but when you walk in, you wouldn't think like your shit is being processed. So they want you to go upstairs and add to it. Make a donation so the system keeps working.
You mean use the bathroom?
Yeah, use the bathroom. You need to kind of make a donation. They don't want you leaving. If you stay at the, they want your shit. Now, where all the hotels just want your money, they want your shit. Because they need it.
for their system.
For their system, and they want to clean up as much shit as they can, so nobody goes and creates more waste elsewhere.
Hey, could you show me some past year murals?
Yes, right. We've got them here. So, our first one was in 2020.
Which is that?
This is beaver.
Okay, hold it still and I'll get it.
See if you can get it right.
Got it.
That's beaver as restoring landscape. So, in California, beavers were hunted out in so many areas that the rivers don't look like they, what we call don't speak beaver anymore. So humans have to come in and kind of prepare the landscape for them. And in many cases, the landscape is so barren and eroded that we have to come in like acupuncture. And that's what this little thing is showing, humans being part of the system, part of the design to bring beavers back.
Nice.
And then we'll show, this thing is to show how the landscape has been so denuded that fire and flood and everything. And then the beavers arrive, and then you've got this whole ecosystem unfolding. But we have to help them get there. That's the thing. And then we have this mural is inspired by Paul Stamets and Louis Schwartzberg and their movie Fantastic Fungus. And this is the microlife and the mushrooms and everything else that make healthy soil and also clean up toxins. So it's the same thing. This is a biological solution. And on this is what Paul always felt, like when you walk through the forest, you can actually feel the microbes, the mycelium touching you. He always felt that way, so they're able to finally show it in film. So when you're walking in your bare feet in the forest with leaves, the mycelium join you all to the system of trees, fungus, everything.
And who's the filmmaker? What's the film?
Is Louis Schwartzberg is the filmmaker.
And what was the name of the film?
It was Fantastic Fungus. And that came to Santa Barbara. We had 1,000 people come out for the film.
Hold on one sec. Okay, and you were saying?
Yeah, so that's based on their stuff. We brought them to Santa Barbara, and they were our eco-heroes back in 2022. Yeah. We managed to finally get them. COVID kind of set it back a little bit. And then down here is marine permaculture, and this is Dr. Brian von Hertz. And he's a scientist that developed this back in 2008. And his father was one of the people that did the early work on climate change and measuring it. And so he grew up down at the Scientific Institute in San Diego. That's where he spent his childhood. A very famous one. So his father was involved in that and on a Mauna Loa at the top is the measuring device that they set up for measuring climate.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was done in the 70s. That's his dad. And so he grew out of that and got into seeing that the oceans needed to be cleaned up. But then he realized that a lot of it is the ecosystem of the kelp is what's been destroyed.
And the kelp?
The kelp. And it's been so diminished because of agriculture, where it floods the shorelines with soil, buries it. Also warming of the climate. So some of the kelp can't grow here, not as adaptable. So we need to move other kelp in. So what he's developed is on this one, a floating bed that of kelp. It's like a nursery. It pumps the cold water by just waves and constantly flows over the kelp to keep the temperature cold. So the kelp can develop and start to grow, and then kelp seeds will then fall into the environment. So that's really important, and this is to seed the next generation of kelp. So this is actually, there's one scheduled to be some in Santa Barbara. I don't know the date, but I think half the money is already up, and there'll be a floating bed out there of kelp using that principle. Yeah, and so Brian we brought to Santa Barbara too, and then over here we're honoring soil, and this is our whole thing about. And the interesting thing is, our artist Kristen Sell said when we first designed it, we said, why don't we have the woman looking down into the soil? She said, no, there's more life underneath the soil than there is on our planet.
Oh.
She said, so the child should be looking through all the soil microisms to the earth. The opposite.
Plus we're in the earth looking out at the kid.
Yeah, right. So she's looking through from the earth, looking through all those microbes to the earth above.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and that was her. She works with us, and what happens is we work out design, and then she has a free-form way of just every day we sit, and she kind of brings ideas. And then we kind of provide more background and education for her, and she gets slowly up to speed, and by second day here, she knows what we're after. She's got what we're talking about, and then she has free will to take it in any direction. And that's what she does. She uses the artists, and we step back, and we're just her support staff. You know, keeping people away because she's very popular. You know, so we're crowd control.
What is Santa Barbara Permaculture Network? What's permaculture?
Okay, permaculture is ecological design that mimics nature's patterns. It's a real simple way, and it has a whole bunch, has a different principles, which could be 12 to 16 for design. And the most important thing of permaculture is it is ethically based. So it's earth care, people care, fair share. And unless all systems are fed, then your design won't work. It'll falter.
What are the three again?
Earth care, people care, fair share, meaning you share with all the living systems, not just humans. And if you leave something out, it'll take a lot of energy to run your system and it'll deteriorate. If you have everybody as part of it, you have a natural system that can live on. And that's the beauty of it. So Bill Mollison and David Holgram, they published, their first book was published, Permaculture 1, 1978. And they gave it to the world, so there's no copyright on it. Anybody in the world can use it, adapt it, and add to it. So what's happened is...
What's it called?
Permaculture 1 is the book, but they just offered it to the world to use. And so it's spread around, it's almost in every country. Russia, you name it, it's there, it's under the surface, it's doing its thing. It's like mycelium. You don't see it, but it's changing. And he gave everybody the thing of like, go do whatever your specialty is, and incorporate permaculture, and if you want to, write a book. So there's probably been 100 books published or more already. And everybody takes permaculture to their specific interest, whatever their specialty, and then they write the book from that point. So we have all these books written like down to the different parts of permaculture. They talk about a part of the system, and then they connect it to the bigger world.
Hey, what do you, on a separate topic, what did you think of Narciso Torres's last trip here?
Oh, yes. Well, we got very wet. We were at the market. It was good. We weren't involved that much with it, in a sense. We were more on the periphery. But no, yeah, he's good. I mean, we've had them come before. Like when they came last time, we went up to the botanical gardens.
Did Narciso come
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great conversation. And once we had an interpreter, but once we understood we're doing ecological design, we have a language. We understand what they're doing and they understand what we're doing. So it's like those words don't matter. It's like, oh, okay, you understand the biological world and how it works. Well, we can talk.
I think that's some sunblock you have on your nose. May I smudge it a little?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Margie did that.
There we go.
Yeah, she's...
So that's very good. Anything else about Master Forest Gardener?
Oh, no, that's...
Or what do you think of the concept, the last of the Maya forest gardeners?
They're like everybody, there's a dying breed of people that have that learned knowledge from birth. You don't have that, Permaculture tries to, install it earlier and earlier on people so that they can have a collective knowledge that they can use by the time we're like 70 years old. You can actually make a lot of change in the world. But for them, industrial agriculture is really threatening their existence, And it's always they're looking over their shoulder at it all the time. Cheap food is hard in those countries because they just flood it. We have choice here, so we can actually buy to support stuff. For them, it's a little harder.
Do you think food is undervalued? Should it be more expensive?
Oh, yeah. It was, when I was growing up, food was 15% of your budget. It's 7% now.
7%? It's
only Yeah, so it's dropped by half. So that means everybody got squeezed, even the farmer. To produce that, you had to squeeze the earth, too. You had to take more out of the earth. You had to squeeze another penny out of the earth, right? We can get another penny out of the earth. Yeah, we really did. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So we need to have food more expensive so that other farming can step in, like regenerative farming. I mean, it's because they're looking after their soil and the ecosystem. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more, but not that much. But Walmart's got us into the thing about, oh, we can just, do loss leaders and wipe out the local farmers. Yeah, they're notorious. They can afford it. Like, they lose a little bit here, they charge you for more somewhere else in the store. That's kind of common. And in fact, they're not cheap. If you wander around the store, you find out they give you this, they gouge you somewhere else. Yeah, they're not giving you free lunch because it's cheap.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah.
Are you just listening?
Yeah, hi.
You are the owner? Author?
Well, we sponsored the square.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you so much.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing.
yeah, it's based on ecological design, cleaning up toxic water, like in channels, in swamps, and everything. It's a biological system, so it relies on nature to clean it up, which nature can. But we overwhelm it. We make it so toxic so nature can't. So what we do is we step in and help nature so that it can restore itself. That's what human beings are here for.
Actually, I have proposed.
What is your proposal?
My proposal just think we should just build a forest based on the trash. Since we should pick up or just divide all the trash carefully, and then instead of something like that today, all just put together and then throw away somewhere. Actually, I think it's very rude. It's not scientific at all. It's not like in Japan or other country. I think in US with such advanced technology, we should do this. It's well, and even just the best one in the world instead of the last one. It's my opinion. Thank you.
Well, and did you say Americans have a lot of trash and they don't care about it?
Yeah. They just throw away and then don't reuse it. I just how to say. I think the attitude towards the trash is so bad.
Well, thanks for cleaning up.
Yeah, thank you.
So you are, and what's going on here?
I'm Margie Bushman, Santa Barbara Permaculture Network, our nonprofit. We've been doing events and programs for 24 years, and we always had it in mind to connect art with some of our environmental messages, and so 5 years ago we began, and we think it's kind of our sneaky way of getting people who are not here necessarily they're here for the art, but they're going to learn from the subjects.
Ecological education. Yeah.
These topics. In the past, topics have been beaver, which restore wetlands, and the wetlands draw down carbon. They're one of the most successful carbon sinks. And then we did fantastic fungi, and that's because the mycorrhizae and the fungi, they help restore the health of the soil. If you have healthy soil, that draws down carbon. Then we did marine permaculture, which represents a project that Brian von Hertzen's working on, and that's restoring coastal kelp forests, especially we're interested along the California coastline. And this plant grows so fast, and it draws down carbon, and always you get oxygen out of and this is our last year's healthy soil. And Kristen Sell, the artist that we have today, it was the first one that she did the artwork, and she's showing a young child the magic above, but then looking to the magic below with all the microlife in the soil.
Good concepts. And how would you describe what permaculture is?
Permaculture is ecological design, and that's what the person that we're highlighting his work, he's one of the pioneers in ecological design. It's working with nature instead of against nature. So that just...
His name is what? Who are you honoring?
This is John Todd, and he was our eco-hero. We honor an eco-hero every year, and he was 2022. And his work, this is one of his books. He's been doing this for at least 40 years.
Yeah.
This is his final book. His earlier books in his 20s. He's a scientist, he's a biologist, he's a parasitologist, has many, a very solid background. He and his wife started a New Alchemy Institute in the 1970s, and all their work was with biological solutions. They're already doing that. That's one of their early books.
Okay. And then there's this one too. We got
This is
good
his
stuff there, too.
This is his book where he was just reviewing his life and many of the projects. The nonprofit is Ocean Ark, but you can also, there's a John Todd and Associates, I think is the way it is. You can see a lot of his projects. You can also, there's many YouTubes if you Google.
So you were defining permaculture.
Permaculture is essentially the same thing, working with nature instead of against it, with biological solutions. That's it in an essence. Permaculture is about design. It's not just about agriculture or farming. It could be about
The interrelationship of things.
Sure. And that could be designed for a city, could be a design for a home, could be designed for water systems, but it's working with nature, taking nature as, looking to nature's patterns for the design that you
That wants to work
implement.
with nature rather than against it? Or?
rather than against it, yeah. So,
Well, okay, well, nice to see you, Margie.
uh-huh,
Thank you.
yes, so nice to see you.
Where energies are. And he mixes, and all these tanks are mixed with different microbes, mycelium, plants, soil, leaves. And each one is put together like you're cooking. And like you're preparing for to cook a meal, right? And each tank will